10-6 Life Factors welcome Taylor Gibbs. Taylor majored in political science and religion at Appalachian University in North Carolina. She will be a first year law student at Wake Forest University in the same state, North Carolina. Taylor will be sharing with us her journey from undergrad all the way up to this point of starting law school in August 2021. And we will hear about other, her journey and other experiences that she has. Welcome, Taylor, to 10-6.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So share with us your journey from high school to undergrad, and then to starting your first year in law school at Wake Forest University, one of the best law school in the country.
All right, so in high school, I also went to high school in North Carolina. I was very involved in my high school life. I also got good grades. I played basketball. I was in band. I was in other clubs as well. But ultimately, after high school, I decided to go to Appalachian State University. One thing because I like the mountains, and other things because I also like their band program there. And so once I got the app, I decided to major in political science and religious studies because I was always interested in both politics and religion. So I feel like it was a great school to study that at. And so while I was doing my studies, I was in the marching band for 2 years. I was in the Black Student Association, the Religious Studies Club. I also played a sport called Quidditch for 4 years. And ultimately, once I got through Appalachian State, I graduated through COVID, so I had the whole virtual graduation. And at that period of time, I was largely burned out. So at that point, I started questioning if I wanted to go to law school because all my life I was like, I want to be a lawyer. But then by the time I graduated, I was like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. So after I graduated law school, I went to a paralegal program in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Mhm.
And while I also worked at this real estate law firm too as an administrative assistant. And so as I went through paralegal school, I discovered that, maybe I'm cut out for this. So I decided to go back to law school. And ultimately, I felt like that was my best decision because
Mhm.
I always was in love in Wake Forest. It's been my dream school for about 7, 8 years. So I'm so happy I got into it. And yeah, that's basically my general story of how I got from high school to now law school starting this August.
And it sounds very rich. Actually, you mentioned that you were part of the band. Which instrument did you play?
I
Do you
played
say the marching
percussion.
band?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I played percussion, cymbals, and the marching bass drum specifically. So
Very, very interesting. And you said you all also play a sport called Quidditch. Am I pronouncing correctly? What exactly is that?
so a lot of people, you'll probably recognize it from Harry Potter, but Quidditch in real life is like you play with the broom between your legs, but really it's like a full contact co-ed sport. So it's like a mixture between rugby and soccer, where the whole goal is to try to get the ball through one of three hoops, and there's tackling, and there's like a lot of balls being thrown at you. So it's really fun. It's
Oh,
really
that's
high energy.
are you saying that you played, this was played in high school? Was it within school or among inter-school sports between other high
Yeah,
schools?
it was played throughout college.
Oh,
And yes,
college.
inter schools, also international and national and stuff.
That's very interesting. Now,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm curious about your major minor, political science and religion. How did you decide on both? How does those two come together?
Well, for me, I went in college in 2016 during the election. And so
Hmm.
my thought process was like, you can't really complain about something you don't know about. So that's why I went into political science, because I wanted to be more knowledgeable about a part of this country that's very important. for everybody. And then religion is, I grew up in like a Christian household fully, and I was always interested to learn more about Christianity in particular. So I went into religious studies so I can learn both more about the religion I follow and also about other religions that are present throughout the world too.
And which religion do you follow, if you don't mind sharing?
Right now I'm still a Christian.
So in terms of the denomination, is it Baptist, Methodist?
I am part of the AME, the African Methodist Episcopal.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm mainly like more generic. I'm not really into like a specific denomination.
Okay,
It's like more
interesting.
spiritually, I'm Christian. Yeah.
Did you identify in terms of minor in religion? Was it did they focus on, say, the sociology itself of religion, like how people behave in religion, or the political aspects of religion? What are some of the intersecting factors that came out? And did you see any themes emerging between the political science that you were studying or anything connecting to what you're studying in religion, in religious studies?
Of course. So in my minor, we both went over what these religions are. We also went into like how religion came to be, like how humanity like actually maybe created these religions to help cope with what's going on. And then we also study, yes, sociological effects of it, like how people deal with religion. And then we also study the political factors of how it's played in like all the political parties like you see in the United States today often.
Very,
So they often intersect, even though they're not really supposed to, but they
mhm.
really do a lot of the times.
They do it a lot of the times. Very interesting. So you're saying that you were pondering on whether or not law school, is for you, and of course, you based on the experiences that you would you consider internship or just a job training in order to decide what you want to do after your undergrad degree? Because you said you went into working at a real estate law firm, I believe, and you also went to paralegal school. Tell us about that part.
So overall, I always wanted to be a lawyer ever since I was little. And during college, I actually took an internship at a courthouse in Charlotte. So that really also spurred a moment. But as my senior year ended with COVID, I started doubting myself. And that's how I ended up going to paralegal school and working at a law firm, because my thought at the time was that if I don't want to be a lawyer, I can work in the legal field in another position.
Okay.
But ultimately, I realized that I don't want to work for lawyers. I want to be a lawyer. And that's how I really just went back onto my dream of being an attorney.
And what did you see in terms of paralegal? They're giving maybe probably the basic foundation and the administrative. Is it the administrative aspect of being in a supportive role to a lawyer? Is that what's involved?
Well, basically, a paralegal does a lot of what lawyers do. It's just they can't sign anything. So paralegals, they often draft the forms, they could interview clients, they work on the administrative things, and they do anything the attorney asks them to do. So they play a large part in the legal field, but sadly, not a lot of people know about that position. And so,
Exactly.
yeah, paralegals do a lot of everything,
I thought so.
really.
I think there was a movie about this woman who was a paralegal, and she, even though she, what was her name again? Erin
Oh, I wish I know what you're
Bernadovich. Yes, that movie. She was a paralegal,
Mhm.
and she, even though she was not able to practice law, she did all the whole administrative legal paperwork in order to get a case filed, and she actually won because she had the support. So that's interesting. Now tell me about your work then as a real estate, because I'm still trying to it's so, your experiences are rich, and then it leading you into law, and I'm wondering how is this going to kind of work out in terms of all the knowledge that you gain from all the experiences there. Tell us what you learned from being in working in real estate.
So the main thing that I learned from working at the law firm I worked at was real estate isn't real estate is a section of law that deals with a lot of reading and a lot of handling the same forms over and over again.
Mhm.
Because with although real estate is like a big part of law and that you'll always need attorneys for real estate, I figured that when I worked there, it's not really my cup of tea currently. Maybe when I go to law school, I would learn to like more of it. But from what I did, it was basically handling, you deal with deeds, you deal with financing, you deal with basically how to convert one
Mhm.
property from one owner to another. And so it's
So
really
it's
interesting.
and it seems as if it doesn't challenge you enough. That's what you're saying. It's not challenging
With
enough.
my job, it did not.
Okay.
I
And
was
so
an administrative clerk, so all day I really just would deal with different documents. I would invoice and I would send all the recorded documents to the respective lenders and would make sure that every single client file had the right amount of documents.
and and so of
Yeah,
course there's so much more to practicing law than just shuffling paperwork, right? Very interesting.
definitely.
All right, so now you are ready to you said, okay, I definitely want to be a lawyer. Tell us the steps that you took in order to prepare for the LSAT, the law school aptitude test.
Mhm. So really, when I first decided I wanted to take the LSAT, I went on the I went on the lsac.org because they actually offer some free LSAT study guides. So for me, most of my studies went through Khan Academy, which is like a free program, and they'll give you like practice questions and practice
Mm-hmm.
exams. Because that's the best way I learn is basically hands-on practicing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so basically throughout the summer before the LSAT I took, I will always do practice questions every single day. I will also get specific books for the topics that I could not get a grasp on. Like for me personally, I'm terrible at logic games, so I always got books to try to learn more about how to get through those.
Right. So
And I
is
feel
it
like
that
my practice method got me through. Yeah.
did you probably visit the library, or did you purchase these or did I think you said that you try to find free resources online. Is that what you did?
Mhm. Yes, Khan Academy is what I use for free. And then I also bought a few LSAT books on the side too.
Okay. And so how long did you prepare for? What was the preparation range?
For me, it took about 3, 4 months.
Okay. And then is it that you took the exam, within that at the end of the 3, 4 months, or did you have to have a waiting period?
Yes, right after the study period, I took the October exam.
And can you share a little bit about the exam for if if I am sharing this video with a young 20 something student who have intention of going into law or apply or taking the LSAT or going into law school, share what is the exam like. Now you don't have to tell us the questions. I violate anything. I
That'll
meant
take all day.
right. I mean, just give us some understanding of, you mentioned about logic. What other preparatory areas, meaning area of study that you have to look at to be prepared? I know comprehension is part of it and all those kind of stuff, but tell us the others.
So basically, there is, I believe, 3 sections of it. I haven't taken in a while. So there's the logic game sections where they give you a whole puzzle that you have to put through. Like if A sits over here and B sits on the opposite side of the table, try to figure out where the other people are sitting, like those type of questions. Then there's also the comprehension section where you have to read a passage and then answer questions based off of it. And then there's also kind of a grammar section where they give you a sentence and say, pick out what's wrong, or is this sentence correct, or whatnot.
Were you
And
con?
so
Go
oh,
ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
My LSAT situation is a little bit different than others since mine was taken online due to COVID. So after in a few months, it's all going to be in person again. But really, mine was online. They took out one section due to time. So yeah, my experience was kind of unique for the past year.
Is
So
this probably a welcome change then, maybe? For, because then you get to take it in the comfort of your home versus in a room filled with, 25 people, right?
right.
What was it like in terms, how did they monitor you? I mean, did you have to have the camera on and because I'm sure there's no proctor around to kind of monitor you. So how did they do that?
So what you did was that you had to log in on test day to this specific program. The camera was on, and before you actually started a test, there was like an online proctor. So someone will like control your computer at the very beginning and get you onto the test. And then it was all up to you then.
Okay. And did they have that what we call the lockdown where if you go to other sites, they immediately shut it down? They probably warned you about that, right?
They did, yes.
Very interesting. And so in terms of getting your result, how long did it take after did you get it right away? Or I'm sure they took a while because they have to grade the reading section possibly. Or the
I
writing
believe
section.
it took 1 to 2 months. Yeah, 1 to 2 months.
How was your anxiety level during that time?
Oh, it was very high.
And
I was
then
so stressed.
so did you continue to work during this period? Did you continue to work at the law firm or you took a break? Which is it?
Oh, I continued to work through it.
And so so you kept checking the site to see if the information was put up there and so on. And then you saw your score, yes?
Yes.
And you describe that feeling. Describe the feeling.
Well, for me personally, the score was not as high as I wished it was, but I still was pleased with it because it was basically my average score that I've been getting on my practice exams the
Mhm.
entire summer. So,
Ah,
yeah.
so that's the
So I was
reminder.
both happy and sad at the same time.
Well, I mean, but I'm sure all of that sadness kind of subsided the moment you got into wake, yes?
Oh, definitely. Because
Right.
at the end of the day, while the LSAT's important, is not the only thing law schools are looking at,
Exactly.
especially these days with the whole standardized testing dilemma going on everywhere. So,
Yes. And so you saw your score, and did what I know for some students, they will say law school starts reaching out to them immediately. Did that happen to you, or you actually applied to Wake Forest?
oh, I actually had to apply, although I had many other schools reach out to me first to apply. But Wake was the one where I actually had to physically go to them and apply and stuff.
Okay, so you basically reject the others, or were they like secondary? If I don't get into Wake, then I may just take the offer from other places. Was that the
Yes, I applied to 6 schools total and I got into 5 of those. And so if I didn't get into Wake, then I already had like whole other schools to go to as well. So I was cool either way.
What was on your, can you describe because as you said, it's not just a score. It's also, they're looking at other things in terms of your extracurricular activities all the way from high school, during college, even probably after college. And then, of course, they're looking at your personal essay, the essay statement. Can you share what
Mm.
you don't have to go into details, but just give us some idea about what you actually wrote?
So my personal statement, I actually wrote about how marching band played a big role in like my life and how I became who I am today. And so
Okay.
I was very pleased with that. Yeah.
Do you still involved in the marching band or you?
I quit my second year of undergrad, but I mainly wrote about my high school experience with the marching band, like in high school only.
That's very interesting. And I appreciate you sharing that because for some reason, a lot of students tend to talk about more political things or anything that is falls within the law as to why the
Mhm.
reason why. So it's interesting. Did you get some feedback from anyone, like a mentor, someone that say just write about your passion and beliefs versus writing into those particular areas?
I actually Googled a lot of like articles about personal statement tips and whatnot, and a lot. And the thing that I just kept seeing was like, don't write about things that you don't care about or isn't about your life, because the whole point of a personal statement is supposed to be about you, not about the law or like what you feel about politics or stuff. So really they want you to like to write about an experience you had that shaped your life, or like a person or an event, just basically something that's personal to you that they won't find out through reading your resume or your LSAT score or something like that.
Right. Very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Um, and so you done your tour yet at Wake Forest? Did you do your first tour?
I actually do my tour tomorrow.
So this just simply coincide. That's interesting. Wow. And so, are you planning? Are you within proximity? Because you said that you live in North Carolina. Are you planning to live on campus, or you probably continue to live at home? What's your plan there?
So I plan on living like at least 5 minutes away from campus in an apartment complex. So yeah, I'll be really close.
So for anyone who would be in your position as student and deciding to take the path like you did, what would you say is your main source of support or motivation to get you to where you are? I know you're starting, and the real work comes with, especially within those first year, to keep up those grades.
Mhm.
What is your the support and motivation from to get you to where you are, from family, your belief in God, whosoever? Can you talk about that?
So my main support or like my inspiration comes from my mom, because she came from like a low income background and she managed to go all the way to Stanford, and then she went to med school and became a doctor later on, all on her own. And so she's like such a mountain of strength and like determination. And if she can do all that stuff on her own, then I can do it. And then also a second thing was that I've been pushing to be a lawyer for so long. I've been working so hard, especially with grades for years, that I already got past this one hill. I just need to get past one more and then I'm done.
And then you're done. What an
Yeah.
inspiration, that story. I should be talking to your mom as well, because that is such, yes, it is really an inspiration. So, and such a strong foundation for you to
Mhm.
have, to to motivate yourself to just take that next step and be fully a lawyer. And so your mom is there supporting you, friends and family, your belief in God. Well, talk about that, because there was a video that went viral actually on social media, where a young man actually passed the bar exam, actually finished law school. Now he passed the bar exam, and at the end the mom was just giving praise to God, praise to God. And a lot of people are criticizing her for that and say, well, it's not God that did it, it was the son who studied hard. I mean, you're a religious person. What is your take on
Well, let me see.
that?
For me, it's like, yes, God does like put you on this path and he gives you these privileges and these opportunities, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to actually utilize what he gives you. Because the Lord does a lot, but he's not just going to automatically push you onto like the right way and make you pass all these things. You have to put in the work as well. So
Okay.
I think it's like a mixture between both God's work and your work too.
Fair enough, fair statement. Wow, I can see how some of your papers are going to turnout in law school. It's going to be challenging. And so your inspiration comes from you just wanting to study law. Was there like a person, a movie? Where does that deep passion lies? I know your mom is a motivator in terms of she's a medical doctor. So that's interesting, and you're going the opposite way. You're going into the social science area, and she's in the natural science. So tell me about, where is there someone that kind of inspire you in that way, specific to law? You watch a movie, you watch a show. What is it?
For me, it all started when I watched the movie Legally Blonde when I was little. Like, I was so entertained by the fact that she went through all odds just to become a law student, and then she went on to become a famous attorney. And that really had me just get so interested in like law and like wanting to help people, because the law is written many ways so that common people can't really understand it. And I want to be the person to be that bridge between all that confusing writing and then to them getting what they want through it.
That's an interesting statement that you make. It is confusing. And so have you, I know it's probably a little early because by the time you get through the law school, and you take all these courses, you can start out saying, I'm going to go into this area, but then you change your mind. But just the way that you kind of have this strong foundation about that you want to become a lawyer. Have you decided yet which area of the law you want to pursue? It's not going to be real estate. So, right?
Um, so far, I don't really know. I kind of lean, like, I am interested in employment law or possibly like helping out in education somehow, but those two are like my main two interests so
Employment,
far.
employment or education.
So far, yes.
And what in terms of law and education, what exactly would you do in that area?
I am still figuring out a way, but I believe that it mainly deals with how funds are allocated to different schools, or like if the schools are treating their students right through their student codes of conduct and like those type of incidents and
Oh,
stuff.
that's actually very, very interesting. So it is likely that you're probably working with a lot of people who, as you said, the law is so confusing that they need the support to make sense of whatever the rules are and whether how it affects their children. Whether it could be public education or you're talking even private or university level. Does it matter?
To me, it doesn't matter because I think education and every step of the way is like equally important.
Interesting. And so you mentioned about the LSAT questions, some of them being focusing on logics and argument, positive arguments and all that kind of stuff. You also mentioned that you use free websites online because that's a lot of questions some students may have. I can't afford to even pay for or hire tutors or to do the process. How would you encourage students to go about not spending too much money to prepare for this? What would you say to them?
I would say the best advice is if you have the internet, just like Google around like where you can find free LSAT sources, because there's a lot of articles out there that'll say, here's a list of these resources for you. Or you can just go to the LSAC.org site itself, because that's the official law school site. And so they'll tell you free resources as well. And if you don't have access to the internet, just try to like ask around or try to see if you can find stuff just from asking or maybe looking in the library to find those resources as well, because they are out there.
Good. What type of student does it take to you know take the journey that you took? Would you describe your journey as easy, moderately difficult, or very, very hard? And what type of person or student does it take to move in that through on that journey?
I would say that it takes like a mentally strong student or someone who has like a lot of courage and, is good with work and like stress, and just someone who can just push through and fight on no matter what hardships you take on. Because although some people may say that it's easy, it does take a lot of time management. It takes a lot of work because before you can even get to law school, you should preferably have good grades in
Mhm.
school. So you have to work with that. And if you also have to get involved, you have to work on spending time in those activities. And you just really have to build yourself up to be like a strong character and just have to keep pushing on. And so that's the main thing.
That's actually excellent. That's an excellent point. And time management is key. Now, you look around, say you're reflecting on your undergrad, and you're seeing the state of academic and how the interaction between student and faculty and so on. What is it then? What would you say? We know clearly the role of a student. We know clearly the role of a faculty, but there are times, sometimes the lines get fuzzy or the roles tend to, students tend to be confused about what their role is and what the faculty role is. Do you believe that students' expectations are too much when it comes to in terms of the professor, or do you believe that the professor's expectations are way too high when it comes to what students should be doing? That's two
I
questions.
feel like it's a mix between the two, really, because on one hand, I I understand what students are feeling. I feel like if you're paying for all this, then you should be getting like faculty support and at least some understanding so that they can help you succeed. And
Mhm.
on the other hand, I understand why faculty expects you to study outside of class because you can't really learn everything in a 50-minute class. And it's best to like to try to learn the content more if you work on it yourself outside of class. So I like understand both sides of the argument, and I feel like it's really just a give and take relationship.
It's a give and take. Describe when you say faculty support. So the professors in the classroom, the professors teaching the material, the professor demonstrate the material, the professor probably outlining the syllabus that a student should, make an appointment if if they need help or clarification on any particular area of the course material and so on. So that say, for example, would be clear because that's part of the role of the professor then. What is it then? What is your description, or what is your idea of what does it look like when you say faculty support to students? Other beyond what I just shared.
For me, it's mainly just fixed on communication, like being open to students, like having open hours in your office and just being there just to help students if they ask you for help. Because I feel like without communication, there's really no support at all at the end of the day. So communication is key to like faculty support.
Okay, very good. So a student who work within time management, respect their own time, respect the professor's time. Because say you're going into law school and that's another area, they're expecting you, this is an independent area. They're going to expect you to work independently. But of course, they're probably going to say, my office is open for you to come and meet and so on. Um, we of course the comparison between undergrad and law school is a whole it's a whole different ball game there, because you really, for you to get this far, you really have to be the exceptional student, as you stated. But what role do you think then, if any, if it's any different from the what faculty should be playing at the law school then to help students at a law school? It doesn't necessarily have to be Wake.
I kind of think it's the same, to be honest. Like, yeah, you're going to have to research a lot outside, but I feel like still having those open hours and things, because I don't understand how you can just accept students and then want them to fail. So I feel like if you can help a student pass, then why can't you? So I feel like the whole faculty support with communication should still be the same in law school. It may not be as much, but I still think it should be offered at some point.
It should be offered. And if the students decide, if some students decide, well, not that they decide, but it appears as if whatever attitude they have towards that type of support, they do not receive it. How should the university or the department interpret that? Students' attitude towards not accepting help.
If the student doesn't accept the help, then I don't think there's much that the university can do, because as a student, you should take the opportunities you are given and try to use those, because even though you can get support, the university is also not going to hold your hand to get you through all these classes. So at some point, you just have to take what you can get instead of miss those opportunities that they hand you.
Very good. So I'm going to put you on the spot again and ask you the question of, so we're still in the middle of the pandemic, despite they're saying, well, we can relax on the mask, but a lot of things are happening. And you're saying you're going back on campus, you're going to be at Wake Forest actually taking classes face to face. But say, for example, if something a turn of events where, they have to go back to putting classes online, should a university relax its policies on, scheduling assignments, scheduling evaluations, accepting homeworks, accepting, testing and so on? Should there be a kind of a relaxed period where there's no kind of time capsule on anything? And what does this suggest or indicate on the meeting the learning objectives in the course?
I feel like if it has to move back online, I think teachers don't have to give up on timelines, but I think that they could at least extend the deadlines, because especially with COVID, you don't really know what's happening with students. I know a lot of my friends have gone through like mental issues and all of these things, all this type of stress that came from just online classes, because they aren't really that fun as an in-person. So I feel like if teachers could be a little more empathetic, like could emphasize more with all the students and what they're going to, I think that should be happening if all these classes are going back online, because it is a tough time for both faculty and students. So I don't see why you have to do the same schedule as if you're in person.
Do you believe that kind of watered down content and watered down structure and watered down kind of, reduces the effectiveness then of the course itself and the objectives of the course, when you kind of have this, because when you kind of have this relaxed approach to, so let's think about the logic again. Because of the pandemic, then this happened. We know how, when that kind of free range, how it can be taken advantage of. What do you think about that? Will this kind of flexibility or being overly flexible because of the pandemic, then you should change the way that you do things? How will that affect the content of the course? Or me?
I think depending on the course, it could like become a watered down version, but it also could just become like an even more stressful course too, because there are teachers, some of them do know how to teach online, and there's others who are still learning.
Mm-hmm.
So it really just depends on how much the teacher is willing to teach, because COVID is like a scary time. Students, when they do have to work at home, they have to deal with a lot more issues than if they were actually on campus or in the classroom in general.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you don't really have enough time to fully focus on staring at a computer screen for 8 hours and just doing all the same work. So the flexible thing, I can see why it could be a bad thing, because students will take advantage of it, but it's also a good thing for the students who generally need that flexible hours and stuff so that people can still move forward if they choose to continue with school during this time.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you for sharing that, Taylor. Now, have you looked at the curriculum at Wake Forest University in terms of, you know, the sequence of their courses and, you know, how, you know, you kind of preparing yourself to manage the rigorous schedule for the first semester? Have you gone to kind of do that type of research?
They haven't released the official schedule yet, but all first years basically take the same classes. There's like some 40-person blocks of classes, and then you're split into subsections of 20. So basically every single week, all these people are going to have the same classes. I can't remember which ones they are yet, but it will be hard to adjust to at the beginning, but I think I can get through it.
Yes, and I think so too. So basically, you will be in a cohort with the same students throughout the period. That's what you're saying.
Correct. Yes.
Good. And so, in terms of what's your plan on self-care during those times? Because law school is not easy. It's just like medical school. Your mom probably sharing that with you, you know, how she managed and, you know, trying to raise you and all that kind of thing. So what do you, in your mind, have you thought about, you know what, I'm going to make sure I do this while I'm studying so that I don't get burnout? You just mentioned about how COVID, all these external factors can impact you. So have you kind of thought about it, or you're just going to wing it and whenever something happens, you figure it out?
So one piece of advice that I've heard from current students is you go into like you live law school life the same way you lived life before. Like if you enjoy doing something like hiking or watching TV, you don't have to throw that out because you're in law school. You just keep doing it because you really shouldn't change that much. A lot of I plan on trying to treat law school like a job, really. Like you get there at 8 and you finish studying by 5 or 6 so that you do have that time off, that you can take a break and breathe and just not make your whole school life just look down at the books all day. So that's what I plan on doing. Hopefully it stays like that.
That's what you plan on doing. And so, and it sounds to me that's probably the type of approach that you take even from high school all the way up to at this point, right? Treat it like a job, just get it done. Yes?
Yes.
Good. So what are your greatest concerns, right? There's so much right now that is happening in our society. We're talking about the world in general, not just in the US, not just in the state of North Carolina, across the world. There's this themes, there's these similarities that are just going on. And it's as if, you know, for example, there's the same type of movements that are in the US are now cropping up overseas. Are you concerned at all? And with, you know, I don't want to put you in the spot because I know law school can be a very sensitive area. But is there any concern for you where if your writings going to be penetrating in a particular current events, like the movements that are taking place, the political arenas that are, you know, things that are happening in the political arena? What are your greatest concerns at this point?
My greatest concerns really is just how the Black Lives Matter movement and movements like that are going to be like taught in schools, or how the public's going to react to things like that, because it's still going on. But as we can see in the United States every day, it's not really taken kindly, and every step forward is like 3 steps backwards. So that's my main concern, is to be how it will be in the future and with future generations as well.
Are you concerned at all about the sensitivity or the contentions that surrounds Black Lives Matter movements, Blue Lives Matter? I mean, and all these lives matter. I mean, that's propping up and everybody getting so sensitive and, you know, partisan over everything and taking sides and things like that. Are you concerned that this may influence even the cohort that you're going to be part of? Is there any concern?
I'm pretty sure it will. I'm concerned about how many people is like gonna be opposing these type of things and how I'm supposed to like deal with them in like a calm manner. So mainly it's like I'm used to it at this point. I went to like primarily white institutions all my life, so I know how to be the odd one out in terms of these type of topics. And so mainly my concern is just how am I going to deal with that in law school as well? Because I already know that there's going to be differences.
There's going to be differences. And so you shared just that, that you've your academic journey so far is mainly through in an institution or in institutions that are not diverse. Do you want to share a little about that? Without, you don't
Um,
have to get into anything too deeply personal, but just, off the top.
but yeah, that's mainly been my school journey is that I'm used to there not being a lot of minority or diverse people in the class. So often I'm already used to, people who are either willfully or or just can't help being ignorant about a couple subjects. So I know how to educate others, but sometimes it does get tough and it does get hard. But at this point, I feel like I can just push through it because sadly, that's how life is in many places, that there's not a lot of diversity yet. So I got to learn that lesson early. So
That,
it's
and
getting better though.
and that's so very optimistic to actually have that outlook that despite what you see happening around you, you believe that it's going to get better and you're prepared to educate, but you're acknowledging that this can be very tough. Always being the person that probably have to be educating others then, I guess, throughout all of
Mhm.
this. We have the last question. I know you're close to that point where we have to run. Um,
Oh, I'm still good now. They haven't told me they're here yet.
okay,
So I'm still good. Yes.
great, great, because I'm really enjoying talking to you. And so you mentioned the non-diverse setting that you've had in the past. Is that the same thing that's possible coming up at Wake Forest?
I believe so. I looked at the statistics and I'm seeing the current class people, and although I can sense that diversity is increasing on campus, it's still not like a lot of people yet, but it's getting there. I know Wake is growing in its own way.
Very good, very good. All right. So every man thinks God is on his side. The rich and the powerful know he is. That is a statement that is a quote from John Anouilh. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. What does that mean to you? You're going into law. You're going to get all these type of, you know, statements that conditional statements, contrapositive statements, and you have to interpret it. What does that mean? And the fact that you study religion and you're a religious person, what does that make sense to you?
To me, it just makes me think about how, in general, Christianity, it's all about how you must suffer to get what you want, or how suffering is required for you to be to where you are. So, of course, the rich and the powerful, they're going to believe that God is on their side because they already have everything. And like if you have a low income and are struggling, then of course there's going to be those doubts about like, is God looking over me because I struggle so much and still don't have anything? So I feel like really just looking at that quote at all is just really tapping into how the core Christianity can just be construed in all these different ways.
And so imagine being poor, uneducated, lacking resources, how a person will actually believe that they're destined to be in the position they are because of the suffering that they're experiencing. They said, well, and some people will say, I'm suffering because this is what God wants of me. You've seen that statement. What would you say to someone who believes that?
I would say that they just shouldn't keep giving up. A lot of people, they like to use religion as a way to cope with their current situation.
Mhm.
So I'll be like, I don't think that God will want you to suffer all your life and not get anything out of it. Personally, I know others have different opinions, but I believe that you're only suffering now because God knows that there's something greater for you in the future, and that you shouldn't just use him as an excuse about to try to cope with the situation that you're in. You should use him to move forward, not just stay where you are.
Just to stay where you are. There's a lot of things that is happening lately that is also very interesting. You know, how Sharpton tend to pray a lot, after, God is going to give us do the right thing. Nancy Pelosi is saying, for example, this victim sacrificed himself for the greater good for all of us. And you're shaking your head already. I'm not. And recently they had all these priors on the doorsteps of courthouses because God. And yet, sometimes we look, it's as if we're blinded, and it's narrow-minded in some, because you have to also look on the other side as well. They're victims too. And we must be careful thinking there's only one set of victims. Do you understand, right? So what do you think? What do you say about that? Because again, we're talking about law, we're talking about politics, we're talking about religion. It's all in your area. So what do you say? Let's start with Nancy Pelosi first, when she said that, this victim is a sacrificial lamb, basically. How does that make sense to, the layman? Myself, I'm not, who wants to make sense, of this, or a student who's planning to take the path that you're taking.
I feel like that statement shouldn't have been said by Nancy Pelosi, because it was kind of heartless, and I think she missed the point. She's trying to make George Floyd be like a martyr for the Black Lives Matter movement, when really the issue should have been on the police brutality that pushed us all to this point. So I feel like instead of that quote being taken like as religious, I just feel like that was just a quote made out of ignorance, in my opinion.
In your opinion, and you'd think
Yeah.
that at that level, a politician at that level could have more a deeper insight as to how to, articulate a statement on the outcome of a trial that have so many different pieces and factors involved, and lose sight of what the main issue is. Isn't that interesting?
I feel like that statement just showed about how like separated like the leaders of these political parties are to what regular people feel every day and what they actually want.
Mhm.
Because if she made a statement like that, then it just shows that she doesn't know really what we're fighting for, even if she was the one who put on the kente cloth a few months ago. So
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, you observed that.
I did.
Taylor, you're throwing some shade here, man. Yeah. And so that is, yeah, it's an indication of how, what is it? Is this just some type of symbolic posturing going on, or there's more depth? And from what we're seeing, it seems as if you're just doing it, going through the process of something versus understanding the deep nature of what is actually happening. I'm sure the victim would not see himself wanting to sacrifice. He was pleading to live. He was pleading to live. Yes. And the family members
Yes.
have wanted that. So that's an interesting point. Let's talk about the prior on the court steps. What does that translate to? Having this legal, are you saying that God went into send his angels into the courthouse and make all of this happen for Black people?
Could you explain what happened there? Because I haven't had knowledge of that event.
So no, there's a lot of prior taking place, especially when somebody dies by the hand of police. They're praying for justice, and sometimes justice doesn't happen. But in this case, recently, justice or now they're calling it accountability or cars, where this policeman, have to pay the penalties for the things that he did. And so there were a lot of praying before the press conference, after the press conference, and almost in every kind of interaction when it has to do with what do you think about that? Knowing that there's victims on both sides, what is it? And it comes right back into every man thinks God is on his side. The rich and the powerful know he is. It comes right back into that statement. What is Sharpton and Crump and the other, civil rights attorney? What are you're using prior as a tool? But what is indication and the suggestion from that?
I feel like by praying, they're like trying to have their personal relationship with God to try to just plead for at least a right, just a right judgment, or at least for justice to take place. I feel like that's why they're mainly praying, because at the end of the day, when you feel like justice won't be given by humans alone, that's when you go to God, because at least God knows what's right and wrong and can help make these choices. So I feel like prayer is just a way to try to communicate with God before these situations take place, and just trying to do your best to try to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I feel like it's just another coping method. So
I like that response, Taylor. That's a very good point. Because then you talk about the relationship with God. It's like if everything else fails, right? Then you might as well believe in this higher source that, well, somebody has to come through. It has to be him, right? Or, it has to be God. So that's a fair assessment of it. So this is our final. What is what is it that if someone watching this, discussion, this interview with you, what should be their takeaway?
for me, if I could tell them something, it's just to do your journey your own way, especially with social media around and all the internet. Everybody's going to be trying to tell you different things, or different things you're supposed to do and that you haven't done. And so just try to follow your heart and just try to take it your own way, because there's different paths just to get to the same ending. And so just do what makes you happy. Just try your best and work hard, and just be the best you can be. And don't let everybody try to tell you anything different or try to take you down a path you don't want to go down.
Thank you so much for that, Taylor. That's actually very sound advice to people in your cohort, people that are coming behind you. And I wish you nothing but all the success in the world. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.